Hello, I am a 17-year-old girl, about to turn 18 in a couple of weeks, and I'm living with my friend right now because I recently left my adoptive parents' house to move in with her because I don't trust her anymore. I don't have any other family, and technically, even they are not my family. Especially not after what I found out about them. They adopted me when I was 11 years old, almost 6 years ago, after my parents passed away in a deadly car crash. My parents had eloped, so they did not have any contact with their family members. They had tried to reach out to their respective families a couple of years after I was born but had been rejected, I don't know for what reason. I never got to find out either because they had always promised me that they would tell me I was old enough, but by the time I was old, they had already passed away. My adoptive parents, who I had been living with ever since my parents passed away, used to be really close friends with my parents when they were alive. Let's call them Jack and Nora since I'm obviously not gonna call them mom and dad. I never have and I never will. Anyway, after my parents passed away in that car accident, they decided to adopt me. My parents did not have any contact with their family, and when their lawyer tried to reach out to them to ask if they would be willing to take me in, they refused to do so. So there was the other option, but to live with Jack and Nora, otherwise, I would end up in the foster home system. And that was not something that seemed like a feasible option for me. And back then, Jack and Nora were pretty nice to me. I did not have a particularly close relationship with them, but I knew very well that if I did not agree to live with them, things would be even bleaker for me. And I knew that they were close friends of my parents before they passed away. They did not have any children of their own, so it would be reasonable for me to go live with them instead. So they legally adopted me and then treated me nicely for the first couple of years. They never loved me like my parents and were never that affectionate or caring. I missed my parents every single day ever since they passed away, but I knew that this was my new life now, and I tried my best to assimilate into their family, learn their ways, and live according to their lifestyle. There was nothing too big that I wanted to complain about for the first few years, except for the fact that I still missed my parents every single day. It was recommended that I be taken to therapy, but never bothered to take me to therapy because they thought that it was all a bunch of psychological mumbo-jumbo and it would not help me, so they would tell me to just distract myself and stuff, instead of focusing on the pain. I don't know if that was meant to be helpful, but anyway, that was their idea of advice, and that was the only part that would annoy me occasionally when I was younger, but after that, I learned that this was their way of trying to help cope with the grief of losing my parents, so I learned not to mind whenever they would say asinine things like that. Jack and Nora started becoming even more distant from me once I started growing older. They were already not pretty affectionate, to begin with, and with time, they started increasing the distance between us. They would avoid interacting with me and would not speak to me if they could help it. Around the age of 15, I almost started feeling like I was living with strangers and these people did not care about me one bit. And I think I was spot on about that. I was living with people who did not want anything to do with me. I don't even know why they had adopted me in the first place, since all along, they were just planning to treat me like I did not even matter to them and they did not even want me around. I used to feel so confused and lost about why they were treating me like that, but every time that I would try to confront them about it or talk with them about it, they would just tell me that I was imagining things and they were always there for me, so I did not need to be so paranoid. Well, that was all a load of crap, now that I know the truth. I'll get to what I'm talking about in a couple of minutes, but before that, let me just tell you guys about what happened a couple of weeks ago. I think about a couple of weeks ago, I was finally done with my finals week and about to graduate from high school. I had already applied to a bunch of colleges, and I had also started saving up for college since last year. I did not know exactly how I was going to manage to be able to pay for everything because I was not sure if my adoptive parents would be willing to cover my college tuition. I hadn't talked to Jack or Nora about any of this because even though I knew they would have the money and would find it very easy to cover my expenses if I wanted to go to college, I was not sure if they would be willing to do it. Money was never the issue, their willingness to do it was in question. And I thought that it would be too weird to ask them for money when I barely even had a relationship with them, so I had taken a bunch of jobs after school to save up some money, but that was never going to be enough to cover the cost of going to college and I had always known that. So I knew that eventually, I would have to talk to them about it. I was just putting it off for as long as I could, because I did not want to go through with that awkward conversation. Anyway, once I had graduated from high school, I decided that I would have to talk to them. Since I had even heard back from a couple of colleges and I did not want to put this off any longer. So I decided to rip off the band-aid, once and for all, and I had that conversation with them 2 weeks ago, which did not go very well. I did not intend to ask them to provide for me all my life or whatever it was that they misconstrued my words to be. I just wanted to talk to them about how I was going to go ahead because I really definitely wanted to go to college and make a life for myself. But to be able to do that, I need to take out a student loan, and even for that, I would require their help because they were the only adults in my life who could help me out here. Or I would have to work through college, which was going to be a really stressful option for me, but before I came to that conclusion, I had to try to talk to them about what they planned on doing. So with the intention of that, I spoke to them and I asked them if they had anything in mind for when I was going to go to college. They were kind of shocked because we had never discussed this before and that was my fault. I acknowledged that. Anyway, When I asked them about it, they took a couple of seconds to think about it and they told me that there was no way I was going to college. And then, it was my time to be shocked because I couldn't even believe that they were saying that to me. At the very last moment, after I had already applied to a bunch of places, they told me that was forbidden from going to college because that would require a lot of money and they believed that I needed to stay here and work for a couple of more years, gather some real life experience, and then maybe I would be ready for college when I would be able to pay for it with my own money and will not have to rely on anybody else. I was really pissed off and told them that they had no right to say that, and they told me that they had every right to say whatever they wanted to me because I actually owed my life to them, because had they not adopted me when my parents had passed away, I would probably be on the streets right now and would never have had known any of the luxury that I had because they had adopted me. So, they pretty much owned me and I would have to listen to them. After that, in a fit of anger, I made the mistake of telling them that they did not need to help me because I had been saving money for the past couple of months and I did have some amount, so I would use that to leave their house and then I would make sure I never had to see them again. I did not need any more favors from them. I told them that they really hated me so much, that they never should have adopted me in the first place. That really set them off and they told me that since I did have some money saved up, I could do the honorable thing and start paying them back for everything that they had done for me. I was dumbstruck by the things that you were saying, and I just didn't know how to respond. So I just walked out of that conversation, but after that, they told me that they were serious about the things that they had said. I really was not going to be able to go to college because the money that I had put together so that I would be able to afford college, was going to take that away from me since I had so much to say. I would have to pay them back for all the things that I had said, and even though I knew that I was not legally bound to do any of it, I was too proud by nature and I couldn't help myself. So I told them that they could take whatever they wanted. In the future, I would earn probably 100 times more and then, I would throw that money on their faces. Since then, we have not been on talking terms and they seem pretty happy about what they have accomplished. They have forbidden me from going to college and have decided to take the money that I had saved up for myself in the last couple of months. I was at my wit's end about what to do next because I really did not want to give up on this opportunity, and at the same time, I did not want to be a beggar and have to ask anybody else for money. So I decided to start with some digging to find out the reason that they were acting this way. For so long, I had never bothered to question exactly why they seemed to dislike living with me but still wanted to keep me around. Because it would have been very easy for them to kick me out or tell me that they do not want me anymore and never even adopted me in the first place. There must have been some reason I never bothered to find out, but now, I thought that it was about time that I started to find out why things were the way they were. For the first couple of days, I only kept brainstorming about what I wanted to do. I went through all of their social media accounts, but sadly, neither Jack nor Nora have a very active social media presence and I don't even know why I bothered with that because I knew that it would be a dead end. But then, I didn't know what else to do. I had half a mind to reach out to a couple of their friends, but then that would be way too risky because then, there would be a very good chance that they would not even believe what I was telling them and would rat me out instead, and I didn't want that to happen. So it was really frustrating for the first couple of days, but then I thought that instead of going into their background, I could start where everything had begun. So, I decided to speak to my parents' lawyer, who had finalized all the adoption details and paperwork when Jack and Nora were in the process of taking me in. I don't know why, I just had a gut feeling that it would lead me somewhere and bingo, it did. It took a lot of work for me to find out the contact number of that lawyer, but I knew him by name and I used to call him Uncle Jacob, fake name, and I had interacted with him a lot when I was younger, right in the aftermath of my parents passing away. Slowly, but steadily, I had sort of lost touch with him, but I remembered his name and how he looked. So I was able to find him through the power of the internet, and when I found out his email address, I dropped him a message and sent it to him via email. I did not talk about much, I just mentioned that I had something important to talk about him because I did not want to leave a paper trail, and then I gave him my number so he could call me. 2 days after that, I finally received a call from him and he sounded pretty confused as to why I was reaching out to him after so many years. But then, I told him everything that had been happening, and I had been keeping this in for a really long time, so it was necessary for me to get it all out there in the open. I told him about how Jack and Nora had been treating me and I asked him if there was anything that I needed to know because this sort of behavior, it was just confusing and weird, and I really wanted to know the truth about what was going on. Because I was sure that there was more to this than whatever people were letting me in on, and I wanted to find out what was happening. And I'm so glad that I did because that's how I was finally able to find out the real reason why Jack and Nora had adopted me in the first place. It took a little bit of convincing, but I was finally able to get it through to my parents and lawyer that I was actually in trouble and I couldn't go. So he finally broke his promise to the people that he had made that promise to and told me the truth about what was actually going on. He told me that indeed, my parents had been cut off by their families and they had rejected the offer to adopt me and take me in after my parents passed away since they did not want to have any contact with me. But my grandmother on my dad's side of the family probably felt bad about what was going on, and decided to reach out to the lawyer in private and told him that she would be willing to take care of me all my life financially, but he just had to look for a family to take me in. Every little expense of mine would be taken care of, and she would make sure that she sent a big fat check to the family adopting me, to make sure that there was some incentive to take me in, and she wanted somebody to let me live with them until I was an adult. She told me that she would make sure that she did this until I turned 18 and decided to go to college, after which, she would only take care of my college funds, but that money would come into my account directly. And my adoptive parents would not have to be the middleman anymore. Jack and Nora knew about this since the lawyer had told them, and that's really why they had adopted me. Because of the child support money that my grandmother would be sending them. She also had a clause that said that her identity would have to remain a secret because she did not want anybody to be able to find out what she was doing, since her family seriously did not want any sort of contact with me. I don't know why that is. I'll find out later and let you guys know. But for now, I know for a fact that Jack and Nora did not adopt me out of the goodness of their heart as they had claimed to, but the child support checks that they knew they would be encashing every single month, thanks to my grandma. Now, honestly, everything makes so much more sense since I know what Jack and Nora really intended on doing, and after I found out the truth, I decided to leave their house that day because I was not going to allow us to carry on anymore. Ever since I left, I have been living with a friend of mine, and I have been trying to convince my parents' lawyer to put me in touch with my grandma because I think she's the only way that I can get out of this mess, and I know he was not supposed to tell me the truth and that put him in breach of the contract that everybody had signed, but honestly, I don't even care about any contract or anything now. I wanted to go to college and fix my life. And my grandma is the ticket out of this, so I desperately need her to get in touch with me, so I'm trying to convince the lawyer of that. I also made the mistake of letting Jack and Nora know after I left, but I knew the truth now, and I told him that I would never be coming back and they would never be living off of the money that was being sent for my expenses anymore, like they had been doing so far. They also had to return the money that they had taken from me because they had not spent a single dollar on me ever since I started living with them, and I did not owe them anything. They think that I am being selfish because apparently, it's their belief that I owed my life to them. Even after finding out that I know the truth, they still believe that they adopted me out of the goodness of their heart and the money that they would be getting every month was just a bit of an incentive, but in spite of that, they still planned on adopting me. And they would have done so, even if my grandma did not send them that check every month. So they believed that I was being self-centered and greedy and that I needed to come back because they knew what was right for me, and I should be grateful for that. They are claiming that I used them to get ahead in life and nobody would have even cared about me, had they not decided to take me in, and I would have grown up in the foster system. I'm pretty sure that if they hadn't taken me in, somebody else might have, or I might have gone into the system, but that's still better than being treated like this. I know that's a big deal to say something like that, but I don't even care anymore. The only reason I'm even here, second kissing myself, is because I have so many mixed emotions right now that I can't trust my judgment. So, Ida for leaving my adoptive parents after I found out that they had only taken me in because my grandma was sending child support money to them. Update 1. Hi, thank you for the overwhelming response to my post. I'm still living with my friend. Almost 8 days have passed since I left my house. Or rather, since I left Jack and Nora's house that was never my home anywhere. But coming to what happened, I have decided to block them and move on with my life. I still haven't heard back from my grandma, and my lawyer keeps telling me that she doesn't want to get in touch with me because she's scared. What she is so scared of, I have no idea. I find it a little frustrating that she is ready to financially support me for 18 years, but when it comes to actually standing up for me and taking me in, she's suddenly scared. I don't even understand what my parents have done to piss their families off in such a way that they are afraid of even interacting with me. It's just a huge mess right now, and I'm just lucky that my friend is letting me live with her and being so supportive. Jack and Nora are still trying to get in touch with me, probably because they want to make me the cash cow for a couple of more years like they had initially intended to. I can't believe that they still think that I'm going to come back with them, after everything that I have found out. That is just never going to happen. So they can probably just stop trying to talk to my friends and parents and telling them that I'm crazy and stuff, just so they can kick me out of the house and I will be forced to come back to them. These stupid tactics are not going to work because my friends' parents are sane people and they know the truth. They know that I would never lie about something like this. So they trust me blindly and they are never going to believe what Jack and Nora are saying about me and kick me out on their word. It's around this time that I start missing my parents a little more, since I know that if they were still alive, I would never have to deal with any of this. My life would be just as easy as anybody else, but unfortunately, here I am. Stuck in this weird situation, without any idea about how I was going to be able to deal with this insanity. My only hope right now is that somehow I'm able to get back in touch with my grandma and she is able to stand up for me, for the one time that actually counts. I don't know what my parents have done, and honestly, at this point, I'm not even interested in finding out because I just want what's best for my future. So no matter what we have done, I just hope that my grandma gets in touch with me and accepts me instead of pushing me away like she has done for the past 18 years. Update 2. Hello. So 2 whole weeks have passed since I started living with my friend. She and her parents have told me that I can make myself comfortable and live with them for as long as I need to, until this whole thing is sorted out, or at least until I'm able to go to college. And I'm really grateful for that, so at least I don't have to worry about having a place to live. But anyway, a couple of days ago, I was finally able to find out why it is that my grandparents don't want to speak to me, and my parents' families are pissed off at them. And it's not a pretty reason. I can kind of understand why their families cut them off, but honestly, even then, I think it's kind of a mean thing to not accept me either. Because my parents are gone now and family was supposed to be the one thing that I could count on, they disowned me and never took me in, and did not treat me as one of their own, which is just a little harsh to me. So my father was actually involved with my aunt before he got married to my mother. It's crazy because I didn't even know that my mother had a younger sister, but yes, that's what was supposed to happen. My dad was supposed to get married to my aunt, but unfortunately, my mother and father started developing feelings for each other during the wedding preparation, and just about 3 days before the wedding was supposed to take place, they eloped. Their families were disgraced and they literally became the talk of the town. It was a huge scandal, and even now, people still talk about it because they used to live in a relatively small town. Everybody knew everybody, so it was really hard to quash this news, and it left my aunt in shambles. She took to drinking after that incident and still hasn't been able to stop, unfortunately. So her alcoholism is what pretty much ruined all her chances of having a good life, and now, she lives off of the money of her parents and hasn't been able to do a single thing for herself. She doesn't have a job, no career, no prospects, no family. She is just a shadow of her previous self, and I can totally understand why her family would not want anything to do with my parents after that. It was not a nice thing to do, I'll admit that. And I can totally understand why they would not want to have any contact with my parents after that, but honestly, I need them right now. It was my parents' lawyer who told me this story and said that this is the real reason why my grandmother does not want to get back in touch with me, because if she does, it's going to be a huge thing for both families. Because they don't want to relive everything that they went through at the time that my parents eloped together and me returning to them, that will definitely cause a stir. So just to avoid the drama and stuff, she has been avoiding me. But I don't think it's okay anymore. I think I need help right now, and I don't get what has happened in the past. They should not take it out on me. I shouldn't have to suffer the consequences of my parents' actions, is what I'm trying to say. I don't know if what I'm demanding is fair or not, but I just can't deal with this anymore. Update 3. Hi, so I have so much to share with you guys right now. For starters, I am living with my grandma right now. It has been almost 1 month since my last update here, and after that, I kept trying to convince my parents' lawyer to give me her number just to let me have a conversation with her once. Just one conversation, that's all that I needed. 1 hour of her life is what I wanted, and he somehow managed to get my grandma to agree to that. And in that hour, I was able to convince her that I really needed her help and I wanted the family to accept me, because I knew that what my parents had done was really wrong and not acceptable in any way, but I did not play any part in it. I didn't even know about it until a couple of days ago. So it was kind of fun to be punishing me for what my parents said, because I did not deserve it. And then I told her about how Jack and Nora had been treating me, and that's what got her attention, since she did not think that they would be the kind of people to treat her like that, because she had met them before she allowed them to adopt me and had to keep in touch with them throughout these past 18 years. She had expected them to be nice and kind people because that's how they always portrayed themselves, but the reality was something else. After hearing me out, she told me that she would talk to her about the families and try to see what she could do. So I waited for about 2 weeks, and then, she let me know that the family was ready to take me back. It had taken a lot of convincing, but after they had learned of the way that had treated my entire childhood, and how much I had been through, they told me that they were ready to take me back and forgive what had happened with our parents. Anyway, it was all just water under the bridge now, because they were gone. They would never come back, and it was immaterial what they did in the past. Because my misery could not be less than their shame. So currently, I'm living with my grandma, and my grandfather still tries to come around and accept me. In a couple of days, I'm going to have to meet my mother's side of the family as well, who are still skeptical because of what their daughter is going through. I feel bad for my aunt, so I'm giving them their space right now, since they definitely need it, and it's a big step for them that they have at least accepted me. We can meet later and sort things out. Anyway, Jack and Nora are out of the picture now, and they have to return the money that they took from me, because my grandma has told them that she's going to sue them afterward if they don't do as I say, since they have treated me badly, and it is definitely grounds for a lawsuit. And the best news is I'm gonna start college in a couple of weeks, so I'm excited that things are finally falling into place, and I'm just so incredibly happy.